Welcome to the very first episode of the Planting Change podcast, recording at Las Bandurrias Food Forest and Homestead in the beautiful hills of Minas, Uruguay.
I'm Lorena.
And I'm Randy. Since 2021, we've planted thousands of trees to create our syntropic food forest, bridging ancient wisdom and modern science to rebuild ecosystems and communities. Regenerative agriculture isn't just for farms, it's for backyard gardens, public spaces, and even balconies. Want to be part of the new agricultural revolution? Let's dig in. All right, well, we're finally getting started with the first episode here. It's been a long time coming, and I don't want to waste much time getting into it. Essentially, we're planting a food forest. That's our main focus here. And I guess the best place to start would be what is a food forest or a forest garden, or there's lots of names for it. You want to go for it, Lorena?
Yeah. Well, so many different ways to describe this, but I guess it's just like an ecosystem, an agro-ecosystem that we intentionally design that for some reason, has the structure and the function of a natural forest. And the idea is to produce food and other things, other useful things that we need. Essentially, for me, it's that, being able to produce food and whatever else we need, mimicking and focusing on the processes of nature.
So it takes like a lot of the principles of permaculture and really this sort of style of agriculture. It's got a lot of different names. Some people call it syntropic agriculture, food forestry, forest gardens. Basically, it's been sort of based on observations a lot of times from indigenous cultures around the world that often plant their food alongside native plants and trees. And so it's sort of been systematized in a way by a gentleman named Ernst Gosch that I don't remember how many years ago, but really started observing and developing this sort of process where you're densely planting a lot of different trees together and creating an ecosystem for the natural flora and fauna to be able to flourish once again, but really trying to mimic a forest and trying to be able to grow food and medicine and firewood and any other number of things for ourselves, but doing it all sort of together, very densely planted. And the simplest way to put it is trying to imitate a natural forest and trying to sort of accelerate natural processes that already go on, composting and pruning. I mean, pruning would normally happen from wind in animals and just the weight of branches and fruit sometimes. But we focus a lot on pruning, and we'll get more into that. We're going to get more into who we are and stuff like that too. But we're going to say that for the next episode, because really it's more important what we're doing than who we are.
But I mean, unlike thinking about food forest, unlike the vast single crop field, of producing food, where usually it strips the soil of all these nutrients and all its structure. The food forest, this system creates kind of a resilient to drought, this structure that you can look over the soil and under the soil, and you'll see all these processes going on. And more than just that, as time goes on, the more resilient it gets, and the less work and the less input you need to make to create this system. So I think that it's awesome, because the more time goes, the less work you have to do.
Yeah, so our food forest here, Las Bandurrias, in rural Uruguay, is about 4 years old right now. We're recording in 2025, and I mean, like I said, we'll get more into who we are in the next episode, but essentially I got to Uruguay in 2017 and started planting some trees and things, but really everything started taking more shape in 2021 when Lorena and her partner Renata got here. We really started focusing on making it a food forest, on this kind of agriculture. I didn't know anything about it, really. I learned, and I'm continuing to learn so much from Lorena and Renata, and from just observations from the internet, from all sorts of things. And we're hoping to share some of that with you with the podcast now. But I think the biggest trick that has been played on all of us is that they've come to call what they do each year now with tractors conventional agriculture. And it's a very destructive process. I mean, each year somebody comes in with a big tractor, tears apart the soil, it's a very violent process. They have some attachments now that can like dig down, I think up to 4 feet, a little over a meter. Like it's crazy. And I mean, you're breaking apart an entire ecosystem there. In the soil, we've got there's a soil food web, bacteria, fungus, nematodes, arthropods, earthworms, of course, like all sorts of different things working together, not in like a food chain as we consider it now, but a food web where they all are reliant on one another. So the tractor comes in, tears all that apart. They dump a bunch of chemical fertilizers that are mainly salt. Salt and microorganisms aren't usually great friends. So a lot of these chemical fertilizers are killing the beneficial bacteria, the beneficial microorganisms that you want in your soil, which can digest the minerals and make them available for the plants that are already present in the soil if it hasn't been overused and overabused by these same processes. And you're breaking up structure of the soil, its ability to filter and hold water, its ability to get air down further to the roots. There's compaction going on. The fertilizers are running off into the water, causing algal blooms, killing fish. It's a whole big ugly cycle. And it happens every year for many, many farms. And then the spraying pesticides, Roundup, glyphosate, they spray it as a drying agent on many things. So just before harvest, they'll go around and spray that again on wheat and several other crops to dry out the crop so that it doesn't get mold or anything like that. And it basically ends up staying on your food, and then we eat it. So that's conventional agriculture in many cases, and it's really not something that appeals to me. It's not something that I care to put in my body or something I care to contribute to with its environmental effects. And so this is no-till gardening. So we might use a tractor or some other kind of mechanical tool, but it's just to make the garden bed, if you will, at the beginning. After that, we don't come back in to break up the soil. We are constantly trying to create soil and create soil structure. And so anytime we have things growing, we have our garden beds covered with some kind of mulch, some kind of organic material, dry grass, leaves, animal manure, sawdust, wood chips, any kind of organic material. And why is that, Lorena? I've been rambling for a few minutes now. Why do we use the organic material? What's so important about it?
Well, it's these, what do they call it? Like the leaf litter, you would say, the leaf that would be falling out in the forest, creating this kind of like huge slice of organic material on top of the soil, decomposing and being used as like the feed for all the microorganisms that live in this soil. And they start to, that's where it all starts, from there it trickles down to the roots and to the connection between the roots and the trees. So the organic material is like foundation for anybody who wants to start working on food forests and creating theirs, even if it's just in a pot, doing a little bit of a trim of your plant and putting those leaves that people usually just throw away or something, put it on top of the soil they're covering. It holds moisture as well. So if it's, a dry season, at least here we have lots of drought months, that helps a lot with the irrigation. And there's just so many benefits of covering it up, and also a way of changing our minds, like our vision of looking at a garden bed and imagining it that has to be completely clean without just the soil exposed there, and that's going completely against the processes that happen out in nature. And
yeah, you wouldn't
forest.
See a bare forest floor. Yeah. I mean, not even after a fire. I mean, it would look bad, but you still have ashes and there'd still be something on the ground. It wouldn't just be bare soil. That's something that we've invented as humans.
Yeah, and I feel like the idea, I think Las Bandurrias in general, the idea is to create here this kind of living, productive system that that goes with nature, not against it. That's, I feel like, what Randy was saying with how conventional agriculture, or how people have been doing it for the past 10,000 years or more, is going against it. Is going against the natural processes, and we are now harvesting these soils. We are now being guardians of these soils that have been abused for thousands of years, and we can see it. It's, the proof is right there that something has to be done. Something has to be done different.
Yeah, it's, I mean, thinking a lot about plant health, it starts with soil health. And the soil health starts with microbial life inside the soil. If you want to learn more about it, and we'll be certainly talking about it in future episodes, but the soil food web, made famous by Dr. Elaine Ingham in I think the late 80s and 90s, where she was making these discoveries that we really needed all these different creatures working together to make all of life possible, really. And yet we continue to pour poison on this every year and do everything we can to sort of eradicate and sterilize it. And we're trying to do the opposite. And so this organic material that, again, you would find in a natural forest, like Lorena said, it's providing nutrients, it's protecting the soil from the harsh rays of the sun, and so it's helping keep moisture inside the soil, so we don't have to use as much water. It helps prevent erosion when it rains, because the raindrops aren't falling just on naked soil that can run off. It's being cushioned a bit by all the organic material that's there. It supports life. Yeah. You can see, if you move this mulch out of the way, and just dig down a little bit with your hands now, because you can. The soil transformation has been incredible in some spots in just a year, seeing how much the texture has changed, where before, when we first planted these trees, it needed to be done with a very heavy, sharp metal shovel that, I mean, man, if you're not careful with that thing, cut your toe off. But a year later, I mean, the ability to just go in there and scoop out with our hands and put a plant in there and just see all the earthworms and roly-polies and all these other just life blossoming in there. And all of this life is busy eating things and pooping. And that poop is the nutrients for the plants. I mean, it's present in the soil, it's present in the organic material, but it needs the microbial life to digest it first, break it down, and make those minerals then available to the plants. And they're showing more and more now with research that the plants are actually in control of this in some ways, that the plants actually exude different sugars, different exudates from their roots when they need certain things. They can actually send out different signals, different sugars at different parts of the root zone to call different species of bacteria or other microorganisms that can make the nutrients the plant needs available to them. There's some really crazy studies going on right now that I would love to dig into more in future episodes. But right now, we're going to go a little bit into the layers of a food forest, the different strata. There's 7 different strata, depending on who you talk to, but ultimately we're sort of focused on 4, I would say. Well, emergent,
yeah,
tall, medium, low, but then also, like, I don't know. We're thinking about the microorganisms. We're thinking about the fungal layer. But,
yeah, and I feel
let's talk about tree
now we're
size.
at the moment, like we're at a moment where, like, it's the shrubs and the herbaceous part. I think it depends on the moment of your food forest. I guess we're kind of in that moment now with the species that are more the herbaceous layer, kind of in the bottom, that produce fruit. But yeah, eventually you'll want to see all the layers out there.
Yeah. So this was, well, to paint a little picture, this was basically grass when I got here to Las Bandurrias, which was not yet called Las Bandurrias. Mm-hmm. But there's some trees looking around now. There's a few eucalyptus that were here, a couple cypress, through like 3 fig trees, an apple tree, and not much else. One old building that's still here, an old well that's still here, and not much else. So it's been a long process, but we've planted, thousands of trees, many of them native. We'll get into like support trees and things like that too, or service trees. There's lots of really interesting elements to food forestry. So, but talking about a regular forest, which we're trying to imitate. So you've got a canopy, the taller trees that are always reaching up. They're going to be reaching up towards the sun, no matter what. If there's other trees that start to grow taller, these ones are going to grow even taller. That's just the way they are, because they not only take all that sunlight, but they also block a significant amount of sunlight from getting down to the bottom of the forest floor, which is beneficial for many plants. It helps provide some sort of shade and protection from weather extremes, from wind, from extreme heat, extreme cold. It can help us grow some things that maybe are from a tropical climate. And because we'll have more of a microclimate sort of already set up, it's more protected again from the wind, from extreme cold, extreme heat. We do get some light frosts here, which is a limiting factor to what we can grow. But as more and more of these trees and bushes and things like that get bigger, taller, they have an effect, sort of like putting on a sweater. It can help protect these other plants, and so as the forest, natural or our style of food forest, gets older, it's basically, it becomes this microclimate that protects everything a bit more inside of it, and it does provide quite a bit of shade as well. So that provides for things like ferns and lots of other plants that don't do well actually with full sun. Citrus trees are not meant for full blistering desert sun.
Yeah, ultimately the thinking about the canopies and all the layers, it's all about the sunlight. Like, if you're gonna think about which tree does this fit, which layer of the forest is this one or is that one, it's always about sunlight. First of all, it's not about how high it is or how tall it can get. It's just like how much sunlight does it need? Does it need 100% sun? So it's gonna be the high trees that are up there that don't have, there are no other trees above it. If this one needs just half sun or 80% or 90%, So ultimately it's like you're kind of like designing your forest, planning your forest for what trees are going to be there in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 50 years. A lot of these trees aren't even on the ground yet, but that's how you got to do. You got to start planning the whole movie, the whole movie of your forest. And here that's what we've been doing. Finding out which trees are these first, what we call pioneer trees, these really strong rustic trees that can break through the degraded, compacted soil. And that's just like looking around in your town, looking around in your neighbor's, yard that do, extreme trimmings every year, and the tree still grows back. And like, this is a very rustic tree. We need to use that in our food forest, and we've separated a few. We have 4 or 5 that are more of our pioneer trees now, and after, the plan is that you plant these trees and they create this microclimate. They create this like abundance on the soil. They increase the fertility of the soil with the micro life and all the fungus in the soil. They create organic material with the trimmings. They start making this filtering the sun so you can fit other types of plants. And then you can, after a couple of years, and you create this rich soil. You've changed completely your soil. That's what we've been seeing here. It's completely different now. It's porous. It has roots. Now you can make do an extreme management, you could say, or like a extreme trimming of all these trees, and then add the future trees, the trees that you would want maybe to have in 10, 15 years. Maybe, usually fruit trees and things like that. You can design this future forest in a much richer soil, in a much diverse environment, in this microclimate, that makes it as natural as possible for these trees to feel it as home as they can be,
Yeah, and so we're trying to limit also things that we have to bring in, things that we have to buy, things that we can't produce here. We're trying to limit all of that it's not so much like this obsessive goal of like 100% self-sufficiency or anything like that, because man, that's really hard. It's not impossible, but man, it's a big commitment. And I mean, we're doing everything we can to get towards there, but more than anything, it's because it's easier. It saves money and it just makes more sense. But also, so much of what we're trying to create here is honoring the natural cycle of taking and giving back. And when we're buying things from other places, it's we're taking something from the land there, extracting, and we're not putting anything back. And we don't necessarily know what practices they're doing, if they're giving back, if they're composting, all those kinds of things. So the more we can do here, we can control that. And so we want to use as much fertilizers from here as possible, as many like supplements from here as possible for the plants, but also as much of that as we can get from our work that we're already doing, like without having to do additional steps, the better. And so the planting densely and the sort of heavy pruning factors into that. So we plant a lot of trees closely together. Many of them are called like service trees or support trees. They can be a very common one in food forests is eucalyptus, because it's pretty fast growing. It has an incredibly strong taproot that can break through really, really compacted soil, which helps open up the door for other trees also to get through that sort of compacted layer. It brings up water and nutrients from below that compacted layer then also, and shares with other trees. There's more and more research showing that trees are sharing water, sharing nutrients by way of mycelial networks through the mushrooms. But also, when we prune trees, which we have to do anyway, to help sort of give them form and help airflow and sort of make it more conducive for harvesting fruit in the future, and also sort of we want to keep them manageable. We don't want a lot of trees getting super duper high where it would require us to climb super way up high, not safe, or go up with a helicopter.
A drone.
But so we are pruning quite a bit, and we're doing chop and drop composting. That's a big part of food forestry. So when we go to prune these trees, we're opening up more sunlight for the other trees. So again, we're thinking of these trees as service trees largely. They are there so that we can have the trees that we ultimately want, fruit trees, let's say, or whatever, grandma's favorite walnut tree or whatever it might be. But those take a lot more time to develop. And so during that time, we have these other service trees, eucalyptus, different kinds of acacia. It depends where you are, and what's available to you and what works well in your kind of soil. But these sort of faster growing trees, we are using them to generate organic material, to generate mulch, can be used as firewood. But all of these things get pruned, and all the organic material gets left right there on the garden bed, and that becomes food for the microorganisms, which then eat it, poop it out, and that becomes food for your trees. So now you've got these service trees getting nutrients from far down in the ground, farther down than your grasses and your herbs and your other newer trees that don't have such a strong root system or a fast-growing root system. Now you have these service trees bringing that up, and when we cut down part of those trees, and they will regrow, even stronger, in fact, in many cases, we leave it there on the ground to decompose. So now we're actually accelerating a process that was already going to happen of bringing those nutrients, or that would happen in a natural forest, but if there aren't trees planted, it would not happen. Accelerating that process of bringing those nutrients up from very, very deep and then returning them to the topsoil so that these other smaller trees can produce them. It opens up more sunlight for them also. Maybe it gives us firewood or construction wood. There's all sorts of things you can do with it, but ultimately the main goal is generating organic material so that we don't have to buy compost or buy fertilizers or anything like that. We're using these other trees to help the trees that we ultimately want to harvest from. And other trees, if you're using a leguminous tree, there's a native tree here called Rama Negra, Argentine senna, Senna corymbosa is the scientific name. It's leguminous, so it fixes nitrogen in the air from the soil and puts it in the soil. So when we prune that tree and we leave those cuttings maybe on a tree next to it that doesn't produce nitrogen, chan-chan, nitrogen for the other tree. So it's a really cool system. This is a big part that convinced me that chop and drop. I was making compost and wheelbarrowing stuff around and turning and flipping and watering and to have compost come out in a couple months. And this is just a continual compost system, but in place.
And that's the trick too. If you keep pruning, you stimulate this growth in the plants, and you're pruning everything. So everything is kind of stimulating everything else to grow. And so it will grow faster, and then you have more things to cut. So it's like a really that's your fertilizer right there. And that's you not going to buy some kind of spray, or even if it's an organic fertilizer, it's just, that's you not having to go buy that or spread that around or put that in a bottle. It's just literally every couple of months you do a bunch of pruning, and it stimulates everything. You cut the grass, it grows back stronger than it was before, and you create a fertilizing machine.
Now, maybe I'm stupid, but they never taught me in school that there's many trees that you can cut off a branch and just stick it right in the ground and it'll make another tree. I did not know that until a few years ago. I mean, I knew about cuttings from plants and like if you take the bottom of your celery or your onion and put it in water, like it'll start to grow another one. But I didn't know that you could just take a branch from a lot of different kinds of trees and just stick it in the ground and water it, and a genetically identical tree will be produced. If they taught me that in school, I don't know if, I think my life, well, I probably would have been doing the same thing. I just would have gotten there a lot sooner. But it, to me, has been just the most fascinating experience. It still wows me every time. It's the closest I get to spirituality and religiosity is watching a seed sprout, or watching a something I hacked off of a tree become another tree. It just blows my mind. You can explain it to me scientifically all you want, down to an atomic level, and I'm still going to consider it a miracle. And I mention all that because it's something else to think about as well for planning out your food forest and just seeing what trees work well and figuring out how they can be reproduced. We are planting some trees now from seeds that we've harvested from trees here, which is a really rewarding experience. We're big fans of seeds because it helps preserve genetic diversity. It moves along with evolution. If we're, taking these sort of clones, these cuttings, it's great, but you are making clones, and so you get a little bit of a weak point there as far as if some disease comes around and at some point and it like targets specifically that kind of tree, it's going to get all the ones that are copies of it too, possibly. And so seeds, at the very least, it's more like a reproduction. It's a new presentation from a mother and a father plant, and so it might have different characteristics from the mother or from the father that then make it more adept to and more resilient to hotter climate, colder climate, whatever. But seeds, at the very least, give you that. They give you genetic diversity, evolution, and the potential to create something new. In many cases, a new strain of, or a new kind of fruit, or a new kind of vegetable, or anything like that. So, we are big fans of seeds, but cuttings are really, 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 really helpful, especially because you're already going to be doing lots of pruning.
That's why you got to do your succession planning, think about the future of that space you're planting. Like, what do I want to harvest from there? Do I want it to be like a shady spot? Do I want it to be kind of a garden space? Because then you can already, there are things you start 2 years from now. You can start making these new plants for your next lines. now, and then in 2 years, you're going to have all the trees that you need to plant. So it's interesting to make goals and objectives of your spaces, because that directs a little bit of your work, and it keeps things easy. When it's time to plant the trees, you don't have to go there and buy 50 trees. You have all of these that you've been keeping for a few months or for a few years, and they're ready to be on the ground. So yeah, I feel like just going around your area and seeing what trees are happy and what fruit is the tastiest, it's definitely a start. But being able to get the seeds and put them on the ground and start experimenting, really, I feel like that's really how you learn these things. You just put them. A lot of them are gonna die.
Yeah.
A lot of them are gonna grow and then die, and you take care of them and you're like, oh no, what happened? What did I do? But it's all worth it, and every year it gets better and better, and I think that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to lose trees. I mean, I imagine at some point I'll do something stupid and hurt a tree, like an older tree. I haven't hurt any older trees, but certainly lost quite a few in my first couple of years, just from not having irrigation set up and trying to be able to water everything, which just was not possible. But yeah, I mean, various things. There's pests, there's diseases, there's all kinds of things. Just forget not being able to water everything, or very, very heavy rains flooding the roots. I mean, there's all kinds of ways trees can die.
The actual plant might come with some stress that went through, when you buy this plant somewhere and you don't know, That's why it's interesting to start to experiment with planting your own seeds and doing your own vivero.
Yeah, your own plant nursery.
Yeah, nursery.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is I trusted in many ways before I knew a lot about plants and trees, and even to say now, I don't know that I can't say that I know a lot. I feel like a forever student. I didn't think about it. I bought plants sort of trusting that they were healthy and, it looked good, but I don't know. I wasn't looking closely necessarily to make sure I wasn't bringing insects home. And it did happen only once or twice, but maybe I brought a tree back from a nursery and put it in the greenhouse until I could plant it. And yeah, the next day I saw insects from that tree had gone over to some of the other things in there, and it can cause an infestation. So there are, of course, things to think about, but I don't know. You'll learn. You learn one way or another.
It teaches you to let go too.
Yes.
You plant something and you have to cut it. And
yes.
You understand that that's how it is, the cycle of things.
It's been a very healthy process, the learning to prune. It's not just in the literal sense with trees, but I don't know, in the figurative sense with people and things and experiences. The sort of impermanence of life, and being at least slightly more okay with being able to let go and say goodbye and understand that not everything's forever.
Yeah.
Like our service trees. We're organizing another course with our friend Diego from Jardim das Acacias in Chuy, Brazil.
Right on the border between Uruguay and Brazil, on the south, Brazilian south border.
Like, I don't know, about 3 or so hours away from here, but really good friend who he and his wife and children have a food forest there for about 11, 12 years now. And it's 1 hectare, 2.5 acres, and just incredible. You really feel like you're stepping into a tropical jungle there, and you lose sight of the horizon, and so it really feels like you're entering another world. And then when you get to the borders of their property, it's all just wide open monoculture and some wind turbines, some giant wind turbines that have just totally stained out with oil and gross, like these big gross black stains from oil or something leaking out from the green energy. But anyway, it's a really incredible space, and was a really inspiring game changer for me when I first went there. It kind of made a click in my head of like, oh, this is how it works. But we're getting ready for this course with him. He came last year in April to do another course, and so we're planting trees like crazy, lots from seeds to try and have some things ready, hopefully to maybe plant out there, but if not, in other areas anyway. But their place, Jardim das Acacias, was named because they were planting acacias when they first started. It was totally what was available to them, inexpensively or free, and they planted a bunch and were using that as sort of their service trees. Now, 11, 12 years later, I don't know if they have any left because they've sort of completed their cycle. They were used over all these years to produce organic material and firewood, I suppose. But yeah, now the other plants that they did want, the fruit trees and the vines and some medicinal plants, I don't know, those have all grown up now. So those service trees aren't as necessary anymore. Yeah. They provided their service. Thank you very much.
His succession plan was that at the end they wanted to harvest pecan nuts.
Yeah.
And so that tree starts to produce maybe after 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, 12, it takes a while.
Years. So they're starting to produce now, but the idea, that's the whole idea, to think he was going to plant all these pecans and wait 12 years to harvest anything, or he's going to plant all this luxurious, diverse forest that's ultimately helping these pecans to get healthier and bigger. And now he has fruit all year round, straight from his garden, his backyard, and his pecans are going to be there too, on top of all these trees, which is what they planned all along. So it's really nice to see their plan coming to, the pecan starting to give fruit and all the processes they went through.
Well, and this gives you some kind of income during the interim too. I mean, let's say your goal is, oh my gosh, I love pecans, pecans, tomato. I want to dedicate myself to growing those, like for me and for my family too, but also to be able to sell, because it is something that's it's worth it makes money, but that's because the trees take a long time to start producing, and I mean there's various factors as to why it's kind of expensive.
They're really easy to harvest too. They just fall on the ground. You don't really have to shake them or do anything. You just literally go there every day and get whatever's on the ground. You can bring the kids over. There's no spikes. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So it seems like a smart idea. I understood his idea, and I think it was a very smart decision.
Yeah. No, and then the question becomes, okay, well, we're either going to invest a lot of money buying already large trees and transplanting them, or waiting 15 years to be able to sell something, let alone turn a profit. But thinking more in this line of agriculture, it provides you something during those 15 years where you're maybe waiting for the pecans to start coming out. And so it's another possibility. It's a way to take advantage of regenerative agriculture in a smart way, in my opinion. We're working out sort of also for this course how to incorporate livestock into food forest systems. There are some existing systems like silvopasture that deal directly with that, and frankly, Uruguay is a big meat country, consumption but also export. I mean, there's I think 3.5 million people and 9 million cows, or 12 million cows, I think. Yeah. I forget, but it's a lot. And so there's been a lot of deforestation, not just from animal husbandry, but it's a beef country. And so we are trying to be able to show here how to implement these practices while being able to introduce livestock as well in between all the trees. So once the trees are established and don't have a chance of being trampled by the cows, whether that be because they're large enough or because we put up some sort of electric fencing or something to protect them, there's still going to be big swaths of land in between the sort of lines of trees that we're going to be planting. And the idea is to let the animals graze in between those lines, to have them come in when we want them to have them cut down the grass, leave some of their manure behind to fertilize the trees. Cutting the grass also stimulates the growth. And animals can also really be used to help seed things too. If we wanted to put in some different kinds of grasses in those walkways between the rows of trees. We could throw the seeds before letting the animals in, and they would come eat, sort of mow down a little bit what's already there, and by just stepping on the seeds, it's going to be pushing them down into the soil. So other ways to try and do things without tractors, but it's something we're trying to study a bit here, how to introduce animals into the system, because that's going to be a big selling point here. I think there are a lot of people who are interested in it, but they also raise animals, and so that's what we're working on now.
And to think about also like that you can have a productive space where you are raising animals and you're also producing food, at the same space. You can go stop your truck and you can harvest fruit, apples, peaches, all types of fruits, wood for firewood, all in that same space. One production benefiting the other as a cycle,
Yeah.
So that's also very magic. I think something that it's not very common in Uruguay to see, to be able in that one space create a rotation where you will be harvesting fruits and wood, animals, and also you can plant grains to feed those animals as well. It's as to make some kind of a ration. Ration.
Yeah. Animal feed.
Yeah. There are many different studies in Brazil, mostly where food forest is very active, but also all over the world where people are implementing these food forests and animal raising in that same space with 2-year cycles where it includes not only, like Randy said, the animals going in, cutting the grass and leaving manure, but also after that we process that field and we plant some type of grains or a mix of plants to feed them, to harvest and process and make something additional for them, for chickens, for many other animals. So the possibilities are endless, really.
Yeah, and cows have gotten a bad name, and I want to defend the cow a little bit. Maybe it's a little...
Leave the cows alone.
Maybe it's a little... What's the word? Gosh, I'm losing my English a little bit the more I live here in Uruguay, I swear. But maybe it's a little polémico in Spanish. It's taboo, I don't know. But the cow's gotten a bad name, and honestly, it's more about how they're managed.
Humans should get a bad name.
Yeah, it's us. I mean, it's the way they've been managed. It's the way they've been closed in and just overgrazing. If they're allowed access to grass, there's so many gross feedlots and stuff where all they're eating is grain, which they're not designed for, and yada, yada, yada. These systems, they're showing more and more, are actually hugely beneficial. Hugely beneficial, not just for the animals and for, those of us who are going to eat the animals, but also for the soil, for the grass, for the trees, for the environment. A big part of what we're trying to do here is sequester and capture carbon by planting all these trees, by composting in place. We want to build a biodigester. There's so many things we want to do to sequester more and more carbon. And the fact is, animals can be a big part of that. It just has you have to do rotational grazing, but ultimately trees help provide shade, which help so much in summer. The animals can overheat very, very easily. They won't gain weight. There's all kinds of vicious cycles that are really, really easy to fall into with what we call conventional agriculture. And so we're looking for alternatives and enjoying the ride, studying, sharing, learning. We started inviting friends and strangers alike just about a year ago. We started opening our doors once a month for what's called a minga, like a volunteer work day. Sometimes we're planting trees, doing new garden beds. Other times we've been working on this community center that we're making with bioconstrucción, like bioconstruction, it's sort of like cob. It's mud and straw, but it's not exactly cob. It's a little bit different. We'll get into that in another episode.
Yes.
But it's been a really, really rewarding experience. Not just, we're learning, we're teaching, but also like learning while teaching and teaching while learning. And it's been really, really rewarding and incredible to sort of watch this transformation, not just in the plants, but personal growth and energy at the space. And just, it's really been incredible to have people who we don't know drive for a few hours. Uruguay's not a huge country, but you can spend like 9 hours in a car if you wanted to go from one end to another. So I mean, there's people who've come here from relatively far away to just get dirty and help out and do something good for the environment, something good for themselves, and it's really fulfilling. That's the word I was looking for.
And I mean, I feel like we all are here because we also had an experience like this when we were living in the city, working 9 to 5 and on all of that. And, you know, at least for me, while living in Brazil, I went to a place where they were living off grid and they were planting food forests, and I was just like, wow, you know, that gave me an opportunity to think like I could live that way. You know, that's an option for me. I didn't know that was an option. So I feel, like Randy said, fulfilled to be that option for someone to come, you know, drive 2 hours and come here and take their shoes off and get muddy and plant something and eat something that comes straight from the garden, you know, and not have Wi-Fi or internet signal, and just kind of be here present and
use a dry toilet for the first time, a composting toilet.
And think about that too. It's not about just like, okay, I'm not flushing, there's no water, but like, why am I not, you know, why do I flush at home, and why do they do this here?
Why do I poop in my water? Why do I pee in my water?
But anyway, it's nice to be that, you know, that space. Of course, we like the community, the permaculture community and the agroecological community, but it's nice to also open our space for the people who don't know anything about that but want to. You know, I needed that space to get here, and I feel like those spaces are needed, and we definitely want to be one of those spaces for people.
Yeah, it is great that there are other spaces here that have been doing this longer. There's other spaces now that are just getting started. And so there's a really great energy. In fact, in a few days, we're going to be going to the National Agroecology Day. There was an event here locally in the town we live by called Minas. And this next one's going to be at a park about an hour and change away from here. And that's more like the sort of the big national event. So we're going to be going down to that. It's really been also fulfilling just to be around people who care about this kind of stuff. Hopefully we'll find more through this podcast. But just, I mean, seed exchanges. If you've never been to a seed exchange, I had never been to a seed exchange before I came to Uruguay. It's the coolest thing. If you like plants, I don't know. Everyone's just excited to share. And again, we're big fans of seeds. We will definitely have at least one episode dedicated to how awesome seeds are and why seeds are important. Because, like I said, they're fascinating to me, and they bring me close to religiosity. Almost. Seeds are my god. But anyway, there's a really great movement going on, and we are very, very blessed to have 12 hectares, 30 acres. We've probably planted a little over 1 acre of it. With this next course, we'll be getting up even more. Like, when we're constantly planting anyway, we love to plant. Like, I just saw something on Instagram the other day. Even if the world we're going to end tomorrow, I'd still plant a tree today. And that's exactly how I feel. But we're very blessed to have all this space. It's not necessary. Food forests are being done in smaller spaces. There's urban food forests. There's if this interests you, look around. Check it out online, see if there's anything around you that already exists, some community garden somewhere someone is interested in being part of this with you. It's tough to do alone also, like with one person. Good luck. Not impossible, I don't think, but I'm sure there are people out there that...
In your backyard, maybe.
Yeah, backyard you could. But even still, if you've got a partner and or a kid that wants to chip in, or a neighbor, like it's helpful, and it's just, I don't know. It's more, if you're into a slight socializing, it's nice. But otherwise, you can just talk to the plants. They like it too. Yeah. But all of this is to say, there are ways to get involved with doing this kind of thing without necessarily jumping into the deep end or thinking like, oh, I've got to go buy land. Or, I mean, if you can and you want to, great. I hope we're a valuable resource for you also. But ultimately, you're going to learn a lot in the practice, much more than in studying. Like, the combination of the two is super important. But if you've got other people to bounce ideas off of that are invested in this idea as much as you, and it just, I don't know, so much of it screams community, because there can be so much abundance. And again, to me, more heads are better than just one, as far as thinking things out usually. So if this interests you, check out if there's anything nearby you. Even if there's a lot of people doing these little backyard food forests, and we're pretty excited whenever anyone wants to come see ours. Like we're kind of nerds about that kind of stuff, and I think most plant people are. I think we all take some sense of healthy, humble pride in what we're doing, and it's a joy to find someone else who's interested in doing something similar. Because I don't know, humbly speaking, without like patting myself on the back, it's something for the greater good. The idea of leaving this place better than how we found it, and I don't know. I think my mom taught me that was important or something. So I'm trying to.
No, but I mean, to think about it, yes, so many people have lived in this land before, and so many people are going to live in this land after we're gone, and we have this time. Why not make it, with all the information available? We know better, so why not do better? I feel like there's no excuse, If you have a way to do it, just, that's it. And understand that, it's going to be over one day, and how is it going to be when it's over, How are we going to leave this space that we exist in? So I think this is important to think about too. The past and the present and the future.
For sure. Well, let's wrap it up. Do you want to add anything else?
No.
Great.
Just want to say that, I love food forests. And plant your own. Start in a little pot somewhere. Plant 3 different species. See what happens.
Oh, please. It'll be so much fun.
And come visit us.
You'll love it. All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of the Planting Change podcast. We'll be back to talk a little bit more about regenerative agriculture and to share a bit more about ourselves, where we came from, how we met, why Uruguay, and a little bit more about what projects we're focusing on now at Las Bandurrias Food Forest. Well, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. And if you want to follow our journey on Instagram or TikTok or any of those other things, we are at lasbandurrias.uy, like Uruguay. Bandurrias with 2 R's. That's why we do the Again, that's at lasbandurrias.uy. Follow us to be part of the new agricultural revolution. And remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Take care. We'll see you next week on the Planting Change podcast.
Bye.
Whoop, whoop.